What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about loyalty, love, and Dipset just got flushed down the most scandalous toilet in hip-hop history? Yeah, buckle up because we're not talking about a cute little dinner date. Hear this, is betrayal with a side of spicy receipts, a midnight meet no one was supposed to know about, and a Harlem heavyweight blowing a gasket on sight. That's right, Camron and Chrissy together alone at night. And Jim Jones. Let's just say Ballistic doesn't even begin to cover it. Did they think no one would find out? That the cameras wouldn't catch the backdoor exit? That no comment would stop the blogs from burning? In a world where secrets are currency and loyalty is cheaper than a Twitter blue check, this one is dripping in drama, fake tears, and diamond-studded deception. So grab your snacks, keep both eyes open, and don't blink, because what went down behind closed doors didn't stay there for long. You're about to hear the story they didn't want you to know. So picture this. Camron, the Pink Fur legend himself, sliding into a dimly lit lounge on the Lower East Side like he's just out for a chill night. Nothing more, nothing less. But what makes this night different? He ain't alone. Nope. Sitting across the velvet booth is none other than Chrissy, the love and hip-hop firecracker. With that, you know we're doing something wrong smile that could melt diamonds. You mean to tell me Chrissy, who's been ride or die for Jim Jones since flip phones were a thing, is out here whining and dining with his ex-best friend like it's a normal Wednesday? Let's not play dumb. This isn't just to old friends. Catching up on lost time. It's the kind of meetup that comes with whispered reservations, backdoor entrances, and a strict no phones policy. Because when you're sneaking around in the city that never sleeps, the last thing you want is TMZ rolling up while you're laughing over cocktails with the one man who used to be your man's brother. And yet, here we are. Sources anonymous. Of course, because no one wants Dipset smoke claim. This wasn't their first rendezvous. Oh no, this wasn't a one-time oopsie. We're talking about multiple sightings, all in places that scream exclusivity and scandal. Private villas, members-only clubs, hidden rooftop dinners. Apparently, while Jim was out grinding, Chrissy and Cam were out reminiscing, reconnecting, and possibly rekindling something that never should have been lit in the first place. And the craziest part? Jim Jones had no idea. Zip. Not a completely blindsided like someone just yanked the mic out his hand mid-performance. Let's rewind the tape for a second because this isn't just some fluke. Camron and Jim weren't just two rappers who happened to share a stage. They were blood brothers in the game, co-founders of Dipset, hop royalty who built an empire out of Harlem grit and unapologetic swagger. But somewhere along the line, cracks started to show. Egos clashed, money talked, and suddenly those matching chains weren't enough to hold the crew together. Enter Chrissy, the woman who's been both the glue and the gasoline in Jim's life. The same Chrissy who once proposed to Jim on national TV and then turned around and almost burned their house down with her rage. She's loyal, yes, but only until she's not. So when word got out that Chrissy and Cam had been sneaking off for these secret little get-togethers, people didn't gasp, they nodded, because deep down, they knew this triangle had been simmering for years. And let's not pretend like Cam doesn't know exactly what he's doing. This is the man who lives for a headline, thrives off chaos, and walks into drama like it's a red carpet event. If anyone knows how to set the internet on fire without lighting the match himself, it's Camron. But what about Jim? Poor Jim. While his girl was sipping wine with his ex-best friend, he was in the studio or on stage or maybe just at home thinking everything was sweet. It wasn't. And the silence from him says more than any diss track ever could. See, Jim's not the type to go online and spill his guts. He bottles it up until it explodes, and when it does, Harlem shakes. But the real kicker? This entire mess could have stayed under wraps if it weren't for one loose-lipped source who decided to spill the tea. Someone from Cam's circle, probably drunk on champagne and Clue, decided. The world needed to know what was going down after hours. And once that leak hit the blogs, all bets were off. Photos started surfacing, blurry, low-light, zoomed-in messes that still somehow screamed guilty. Cam holding Chrissy's hand, maybe. Chrissy leaning in too close, definitely. And the internet did what it does best, jumped straight into conclusions with both feet. Comment sections exploded. Twitter went into cardiac arrest. Memes endless. It wasn't just a scandal, it was a full-blown cultural event. And in the middle of it all, Cam and Chrissy kept quiet, which only made things worse. No denials, no explanations, just silence. And silence in this business, that's the same as confession. People started digging up old interviews, old footage, anything that hinted this wasn't just a new flame, but one that had been burning under the radar for years. Suddenly, that one time Chrissy laughed a little too hard at Cam's joke back in 2011 didn't seem so innocent anymore. Fans became detectives, bloggers turned into prosecutors, and everyone wanted answers. Meanwhile, Jim Jones was reportedly spiraling. Friends say he was blindsided, furious, and most of all, humiliated. Not just because of what happened, but because of who it happened with. This wasn't some random industry dude or an anonymous nobody. This was Camron, his brother, his partner, his day one. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was public. And for someone like Jim, who built his entire image around realness and loyalty, this was the ultimate disrespect. Still, even with the world watching, Jim kept his mouth shut. No Instagram rants, no subtweets, just eerie silence. That silence. That's what kept the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Because everyone knew it was only a matter of time before Jim snapped. The streets were already buzzing. Was he gonna pull up on Cam? Is he done with Chrissy for good? Was Dipset officially dead in the water? No one had answers, but everyone had theories. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any messier, boom, another leak. This time, it was audio. A short, grainy clip of Cam's voice allegedly bragging about how some people don't appreciate what they got until it's gone, followed by laughter that sounded a lot like Chrissy's. It wasn't confirmed. But let's be real, confirmation doesn't matter in this kind of scandal. All that matters is perception. And right now, perception says Cam and Chrissy did Jim dirty. Real dirty. And that's where the fire really started to spread. It's because what began as a secret night out had now turned into a full-blown betrayal narrative. One where trust got torched, friendships got fractured, and Jim Jones got painted as the last one to know. But if you think that's where it ends, think again, because the fallout is just getting started. What happens next is a whole other storm of receipts, reactions, and consequences nobody's ready for. And just like that, the whispers turned into roars. Everyone wanted a piece of the drama, and nobody was safe anymore. What started as a quiet, under-the-table scandal had now exploded into something much more dangerous, a full-on media circus, where every breath, every blink, every movement from Camron, Chrissy, or Jim was being dissected under a microscopic lens. Suddenly, outlets were confirming sightings. Sources were tripping over each other trying to spill the next juicy detail, and industry insiders were lining up to say, "I always knew something was off." Chrissy, who once prided herself on keeping it 100, now found herself at the center of a storm she couldn't control. Her silence wasn't working anymore, and neither were the excuses being whispered behind closed doors. Allegedly, she tried to spin the narrative that it was innocent, that it was just conversations, that Cam was helping her with a business move. Business, please. No one's buying that a late-night villa stay in the Hamptons with candles, wine, and no phones was about LLCs and trademarks. If that's how business works, somebody needs to pass the paperwork. Cam, oh, he was living his best villain arc. Cool as ice on social media, posting cryptic captions and throwing shade without ever naming names. He knew exactly what he was doing, stirring the pot, smiling while everything burned around him. The guy who once rapped about loyalty and honor was now playing chess with emotions and his fans. Some were eating it up. Others, not so much. The backlash was building. Old fans started unfollowing. Longtime supporters were questioning everything. One comment even went viral. Cam lost Jim, lost Dipset, and now he's trying to steal Chrissy like it's a storyline. This ain't love and hip-hop, bro. Oof. And speaking of love and hip-hop, the producers. Oh, they were reportedly salivating. Rumors started flying that they'd reached out to Chrissy for a sit-down tell-all. Not just a Sinan entire arc. Contracts were being whispered about, cameras allegedly ready to roll. And the network was already dreaming up the ratings. But Chrissy, sources say, wasn't biting. Not yet. Maybe because she still had hope. Hope that Jim wouldn't walk away. Hope that this scandal would blow over like the others. But the walls were closing in fast. Word on the street was that Jim had gone ghost. No calls, no texts, no appearances. Just ice-cold distance. Friends close to the couple said Chrissy was spiraling, trying to explain herself, trying to fix what was already shattered. And Jim, he wasn't just angry, he was embarrassed, humiliated. And for a man who spent his entire life building a brand around toughness, honor, and Harlem pride, this was more than just a betrayal. It was a public gut punch. Meanwhile, more sources kept popping up. Some claimed Chrissy and Cam had been sneaking around for over a year. A year. They said they'd spotted them in Miami, in Atlanta, even in Vegas, always just barely out of sight. Always just a few steps ahead of being caught. Others said there was video. Nothing released yet, but apparently someone close to Cam had footage. Grainy? Maybe, but enough to leave no doubt. If that's true, then this whole situation's about to take a nuclear turn. Because if video hits, the internet, if even one frame confirms what everyone's already suspecting, it's over. Not just for Chrissy and Jim, but maybe for Cam's last shred of credibility too. And let's not forget the fans. The internet is the judge, jury, and executioner now, and they were dragging everybody through the mud. Tweets like Chrissy fumbled a 20-year relationship for Cam. Really? And Cam been moving weird since Dipset split. Now we know why started trending. It wasn't just public opinion. Turning it was a full-blown revolt. Even Dipset fans, once loyal to the end, were starting to splinter. Some blamed Cam, others blamed Chrissy, and a surprising number were actually blaming Jim for not seeing it coming. Because in the messy world of celebrity scandal, everyone's guilty of something, even if it's just being too trusting. And right when you thought it couldn't get worse, another bomb dropped. This time, it came in the form of a leaked text exchange allegedly between Chrissy and a close friend. The text, screenshotted and posted everywhere within minutes, hinted that Chrissy had been feeling unappreciated for years, that she and Jim were basically roommates, and that Cam made her feel seen again. That last part sent the internet into meltdown. Because now the narrative shifted. It wasn't just scandal, it was emotional betrayal. Chrissy wasn't just caught sneaking around. She was allegedly catching feelings. And that's the part that really cut deep. Because as wild as it is to think about Cam and Chrissy hooking up behind Jim's back, it's even wilder to think it might not have been a one-time thing. That maybe, just maybe, it was real. But if it's real, then what happens to Jim? What happens to Dipset? What happens to all those years, those memories, those shared dreams that Cam and Jim built from the ground up? Are they just collateral damage in this twisted new saga? And as the public kept piling on, the pressure started hitting harder than ever. Brands were reportedly pulling back from Cam. Club appearances were being postponed. Collaborations that had been in the works, quietly shelved. Chrissy's name was getting dragged in every headline, every blog post, every reaction video on YouTube. Even Jim, who hadn't said a word publicly, was trending almost every day, and not in a good way. And still, none of them had spoken. No statement, no interview, no sit down, just silence. And in a scandal, this loud silence is a megaphone. Fans were demanding answers. The industry was watching closely. And everyone was bracing for the next big reveal. Because the truth is, this thing had snowballed way beyond just a scandal. It was now a case study in betrayal, in loyalty, in ego. And in how quickly everything can fall apart when secrets stop being secrets. The kind of fallout that leaves no one untouched, no relationship unscathed, and no reputation safe. And just when it seemed like maybe, just maybe, things would settle, another twist. Because just when everyone thought the saga was winding down, a new layer peeled back in this time. It wasn't about blurry photos or cryptic captions. This time, it was personal. Reports started surfacing that Jim Jones had finally broken. His silence, not through an interview or a tweet, but through action. He allegedly packed up and moved out of the home he shared with Chrissy, leaving behind a note that simply read, "Do you?" If that's not the most Harlem exit in history, I don't know what is. And that note? It's now become a viral meme. Posted next to broken heart emojis and slow motion clips of Jim and Chrissy's old love and hip hop. Moments like it's a funeral montage. But the real funeral? That's for any remaining trust between these three. Because now it's not just rumors, it's confirmed heartbreak. It's public humiliation, and it's the kind of betrayal that even reality TV wouldn't dare script. And let's be clear, this isn't just celebrity gossip anymore. This is legacy shaking. We're talking about Dipsaton entire movement. A Harlem dynasty being ripped apart in real time over what? A friendly night out. No one's buying that anymore. Especially not after new audio leaked allegedly featuring Cam in a phone call bragging that some people never knew what they had until I reminded them. That clip, barely 2 minutes long, sent fans into full-blown meltdown. The voice wasn't confirmed, but it didn't matter. Sounded like Cam. It felt like Cam. And with the internet already on fire, it was more gasoline on the flames. Meanwhile, Chrissy's silence was becoming louder than ever. Sources close to her say she's devastated, trying to save face, but the damage is done. And now insiders claim she's seeking PR crisis help to try and steer the narrative. But honey, it's too late for that. The narrative wrote itself the moment she slid into that villa and into Cam's arms. Fans are divided. Some think Chrissy just made a mistake in a lonely moment. Others say she knew exactly what she was doing, and that the only person she was loyal to was herself. But the loudest voices, they're saying Jim should have seen this coming. That the moment he and Cam fell out and Chrissy kept defending Cam in old interviews, something was off. People are now combing through old footage like it's forensic evidence. That one time Cam kissed Chrissy on the cheek at a Dipset BBQ. Suddenly suspicious. That awkward tension during a Love and Hip Hop reunion taping years ago? Apparently a breadcrumb. And maybe it always was. It's because now, it's looking like this wasn't just a one-time betrayal, which is a slow burn that nobody noticed until the house was already in flames. And if that wasn't bad enough, now the lawsuits are reportedly looming. Rumors are swirling that Jim's legal team is exploring options. Because if any joint investments between him and Chrissy were compromised, during these secret meets, he's coming for what's his. There's talk of contracts, real estate, even brand partnerships that might be on the chopping block. One source said this isn't just emotional, this is financial. And when heartbreak starts messing with the money, that's when it gets real. Cam's team, on the other hand, is pretending it's business as usual. Still booking appearances, still making posts, still acting like the world ain't burning around them. But behind the scenes, it's a different story. Apparently, Cam's circle is tightening, with former friends allegedly distancing themselves quietly. One industry insider claimed, "You don't cross Jim like that." Not publicly, not personally. There's a code and Cam broke it. And when that kind of talk starts floating around, it means bridges are burning that may never get rebuilt. And here's where it gets really twisted. Some fans are actually hoping Chrissy and Cam go public as a couple. Yes, you read that right. Despite all the chaos, there's a small but loud group online shipping them like it's a Netflix drama. One tweet read, "If Chrissy really wants Cam, let her have him." Maybe this was her endgame all along. That's the internet for you. Turn betrayal into a love story. Sell it with edits and background music, and boom, you've got a viral narrative. But love story or not, this whole situation is leaving nothing but wreckage behind. Jim, who once looked unshakable, now looks like the last man standing in a war he didn't even know he was drafted into. Chrissy, once a ride-or-die queen, now wears the crown of controversy, walking a tightrope between sympathy and scorn. And Cam, forever the Harlem instigator, might have finally picked the one fight he can't charm his way out of, and the fallout. It's spreading. Other artists are now being asked where they stand. Is there still a Dipset? Or has this officially driven the last nail in the coffin? Some say Jim and Cam will never speak again. Others think it's all a setup for a reunion. But the majority, they're just watching, popcorn in hand, waiting for the next leak, the next tweet, the next episode of this living soap opera to unfold. And let's not forget the love and hip-hop producers. Word is they're crafting an entire comeback season around this. With or without the cast's permission, they're spinning up storylines, planning dramatic table flips, and prepping the green screen confessionals. 'Cause if there's one thing VH1 knows how to do, it's profit off pain. And this is Emilaville heartbreak. Meanwhile, Jim's inner circle is circling the wagons. He's allegedly cut Chrissy off completely, changed his number, and is going full ghost mode. Whether that silence is permanent or just the calm before the legal storm remains to be seen. But if Jim comes back, it's not going to be with a tweet. It's going to be with an explosion. And that's what everyone's bracing for. The final word, the diss track, the bombshell interview. Something that gives closure makes everything worse. 'Cause, let's be honest, closure isn't trending. Chaos is. And in this game, chaos is king. So now we sit back and wait for someone to snap, someone to speak, someone to slip up. 'Cause no matter how many damage control meetings are happening behind the scenes, this isn't a fire you can put out with a PR statement. This is personal. This is messy. It's betrayal with receipts. And whether it ends with forgiveness or flames, one thing is clear. Nothing will ever be the same for Camron Chrissy or Jim Jones again. So now the question isn't what happened, we already know. The real question is ... what happens next? Does Jim Jones rise from the ashes and reclaim his crown? Or does he walk away from it all, leaving behind a legacy tainted by betrayal? Will Camron keep playing it cool? Or will he finally face the music when the heat turns all the way up? And Chrissy she'll keep pretending it was all just innocent catch-ups. Or will she finally tell us what really went down behind those villa doors? This isn't just gossip anymore, it's a ticking time bomb, and every second brings us closer to the explosion. But we want to hear from you. Do you think this was a one-night slip-up or a year-long secret romance? Was Jim blind to the truth or just too loyal to believe it? Most importantly, who do you think is really to blame? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're reading every single one. And if you're just as obsessed with the truth behind the glitz, glam, and grime of the industry, make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because trust us, this isn't the last time someone's secrets are about to be exposed. We've got more messy receipts, more explosive drama, and more jaw-dropping scandals coming your way. So don't blink. Don't scroll. Stay locked in, because when the truth finally hits the fan, you'll want to say you heard it here first. Here first.